Far beyond the edge of any map, close to the North Pole, a man named Ib led his team into the frozen silence. They had no cities to reach, no rescue they could call for, but they had an order to survey the area for activity. The cold was relentless. Winds roared across the snowfields with nothing to break them. Each day blurred into the next, a world of white above and a world of white below. Nothing but a low gray sky pressing down in every direction. Their sled dogs strained against the harnesses, heads bowed low, pulling heavy sledges packed with rifles, pemmican, and rough canvas tents. They traveled by dog sled alone. No motors, no machines, only raw muscle and will. The only sounds were the crunch of ice underfoot and the faint jingle of gear strapped to the sleds. A battered compass hung from Ib's belt, but at these extreme latitudes, it was nothing more than a decoration. And by midwinter, the temperatures plunged to 40 below. The wind tore across the sea like a frozen blade. There were no radio signals strong enough to reach them now. No towns, no signposts, and certainly no rescue. Only endless cold and the slow, creeping feeling that they were completely alone. They hadn't actually expected to find anything this far north, especially in the dead of winter. The land was supposed to be empty, lifeless, silent, and abandoned. At first, the signs were easy to dismiss. A flicker of light on the horizon, gone before anyone else could see it. A low hum under the roar of the wind, like an engine struggling far away, swallowed almost as soon as it began. They told themselves it was nothing. The mind plays tricks in places like this. But the signs grew harder to ignore. One morning, they found a trail of footprints, fresh in the snow, leading off towards the cliffs. But there was no camps nearby. There was no other people, and nothing that should have left a mark in this frozen emptiness. Ib said little, but the men began to glance over their shoulders more often. Was it real? Or was the cold working into their minds, distorting their senses the way it had done to so many others before? Surviving in the far reaches of the Arctic was near impossible most of the year. And these patrols only carried Lee Enfield rifles for protection, and certainly no weapon could protect them from the frigid Arctic temperatures, starvation, or the vastness of the ice itself. Out here, it was hard to tell the difference between fear and reality. They just kept moving. The dogs grew uneasy, their ears pinned back against the wind. Now and then, one would stop to sniff the air, low and nervous, as if something was there. The men tightened their parkas and pulled their hoods low, trudging through the deepening snowdrifts. No one spoke much anymore. Every step felt heavier, as if the ice itself were trying to drag them under. Then, one evening, as the last gray light sank behind the cliffs, they came across something nobody expected. Half buried in the snow was a camp. Not ancient, not abandoned by explorers long ago. It was fresh. The canvas tents had been torn from the wind, but their outlines were still sharp. Crates sat stacked in snow, half frozen, their markings on them unfamiliar, but crisp. There was mechanical lettering that none of them recognized. Ib crouched beside one of the crates, brushing away a crust of ice with his glove. Underneath, the paint was still bright against the wood, too bright for something that should have been weathered from years of storms. Nearby, in what was supposed to be the empty Arctic, here they found these transmitters. Instruments not built to survive the cold, instruments meant to send signals across the endless ice, meant for someone or something far beyond their reach. Now they realized this wasn't imagination, this wasn't madness. Whatever had haunted them on the horizon, whatever those noises they heard, it was real. And if they were losing their minds, then that meant they were all losing them together, and it just didn't seem likely. The year was 1943. Ib Poulsen wasn't an explorer or a lost wanderer. He was an officer with the North-East Greenland Sledge Patrol, a small scattered unit made up of Danish, Greenlandic Inuit, and Norwegian men, tasked with defending Greenland's northeast coast from German infiltration. And here they were, face to face, realizing that their enemy is not only real, but they're here. And hidden among the cliffs and glaciers were German weather stations, operated by the Kriegsmarine personnel, transmitting critical meteorological data across the Atlantic. Weather forecasts weren't just a convenience, they were a weapon. Accurate storm predictions meant the difference between sinking a convoy or missing it entirely. With every Transmission, German U-boats prowling the Atlantic became deadlier and better placed to intercept Allied shipping routes. Essentially, they would have been able to starve Britain into submission. Now, when Ib and his men found the station, they didn't hesitate. Armed with only their Lee-Enfield rifles, limited ammunition, and their sled dogs, they launched a surprise assault in the frozen darkness. Gunfire cracked across the ice fields. Outnumbered and half frozen, the patrol fought with everything they had. The German crew, caught off guard and unprepared for sustained combat in these latitudes, was forced to abandon the outpost. Their sensitive equipment was destroyed and captured. The Arctic battlefield fell silent again, but this time it belonged to Ib and his men. With sleds, rifles, and sheer endurance, the patrol had won one of the coldest, most isolated battles of the Second World War. The discovery of the German base confirmed Allied fears that Nazi weather stations were operating deep in the Arctic. In the months after the battle, Allied forces launched targeted bombing missions against similar installations across the region, from Greenland to Svalbard, completely dismantling Germany's meteorological network piece by piece. By driving the enemy from Greenland, they severed a critical link in the Nazis' Atlantic intelligence chain. Without fresh weather data, German submarines became blind hunters. Convoys that might have been ambushed slipped through the fog and storms unnoticed. The lifeline between North America and Britain held firm, and with it, the fate of the entire Allied war effort. After the fighting ended, Britain and Denmark quietly honored the men of the Sledge Patrol. Today, their names are little known outside a handful of history books, but their frozen war may have helped save the entire continent. And now, you know about the forgotten battle fought on the edge of the world. Well, this is just a quick story I wanted to share this week. I'll be back to a full episode next week. And if you guys enjoy content like this, please subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody you know, and consider liking this video. We'll see you next week.